Before I get started, I would like to give a shout out to Karai for sponsoring today's episode. To my long torso girlies out there, your cries and complaints have been heard because this brand is the solution you've been longing for. Karai is your go-to destination for stunning bodysuits designed specifically for women with long torsos. So say goodbye to awkward fits and constant readjustments, and hello to flawless style, comfort, and the perfect fit. Make sure you check them out at wearekarai.com and at wearkarai on Instagram. They'll be linked in my description, and let's go. Hashtag long torso gang. Good morning, everybody. You are currently listening to a Tall Girls podcast hosted by a tall girl named India. I hope everyone who's tuning in today is doing super fantastic. Before I get into this episode, I do want to say, make sure you follow me on my socials at a Tall Girls podcast on Instagram, TikTok, and Pinterest so that you can stay up to date on all of the latest podcast episodes and catch a glimpse of my everyday life. Also, feel free to leave me a review and let me know how tall you are. I'm genuinely curious. Everything is going to be linked in the description. So apparently I just found out that my birthday is the same day as a lunar eclipse. Or is it the solar eclipse? Yeah, it's the solar eclipse. The lunar eclipse was March 25th. Yeah, the lunar eclipse was March 25th. But the solar eclipse is April 8th. And apparently that's significant. I've had several people tell me, and it was on the same day too. The same exact day throughout the day, several people were telling me that the solar eclipse is on my birthday. So I looked it up online. So I was like, oh, does that mean anything? And apparently it does. So according to the internet, apparently there are going to be significant changes in some part of my life, or a significant change in some part of my life. So I'm like, okay, I guess that could potentially be a good thing. What am I supposed to do? Should I like prepare? Should I iron or lay out some fresh clothes? Do I need to pack a bag, pack some lunch? Like, okay, like what's going on here? I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm a little scared. But I hope when they say changes, they mean positive ones. Only time will tell, and I guess we'll have to wait and see. And another thing that I read, when the solar eclipse is like the same day or within 5 days of your birthday, you need to take care of your health. And I'm like, what is that supposed to mean? But like I said, only time will tell. There's really no point in stressing about it now, so I'll keep you guys updated. So today we're going to be talking about standing up for ourselves. Now, I just want to say that this episode is not based on one isolated event. It's based on several years of several different experiences. It just so happens that a recent event kind of triggered something within me, I guess you could say. And that kind of led me to want to talk about this. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about the recent event because quite literally it's irrelevant right now. But I do want to say early on, tall ladies, don't be afraid to stand up for yourselves. People will push your boundaries and your buttons to see how far they can go with the comments and the remarks and the looks. And it's best to let them know early on what we tolerate and what we don't tolerate. Because whether it's conscious or unconscious, people will make some type of remarks or some type of comments that just doesn't sit right with you. And it's really honestly best not to let that build up and fester over time. That is definitely not healthy. And I'm not gonna lie to y'all, I really used to be that person to just let things slide. I feel like in general, I was taught that, and it's not just me, honestly. I feel like a lot of other people can agree with this. We're just taught to not talk back and this and that and the other. But I took that to the extreme, if that makes sense. Like, my peers would be having a conversation and they would sometimes refer to me as goofy or this doofus over here. And I wouldn't say a word. Looking back at it now, albeit I was 9, 10, 11 back then, how did I ever let that slide? I've struggled with this for many years, and I'm sure that there are others who have experienced this. And it was more so the feeling of not wanting to come off as mean. I didn't want to seem mean. I didn't want to seem scary. I didn't want to be seen as a bully until I eventually actually became one. I just wish that I was able to tell myself that standing up for yourself doesn't make you aggressive or mean if you're tall. It just shows that you're not willing to take anything less than what you deserve. Being assertive doesn't equal being aggressive. Being firm doesn't equal being petty. This doesn't just go for tall women. This goes for all people in all situations. You know, it's actually funny because it brought up this memory with this girl in my class, in my current class now. Am I able to say her name? I think I can. I feel like it's a pretty general name. Her name is Sandra. And one day in class, we were in groups and I was with my group mates and I'm not saying I argue for fun. Okay, I don't argue for fun, but you know how you just like go back and forth with someone and it's actually not serious? Well, at least you both of you guys know that it's not serious, but to other people it may seem that way just by how you guys are talking to each other. I mean, it's not like in a form of disrespect or anything. It's just like bickering, like how you bicker with a friend or bicker with a sibling. It's not super serious, but you guys are just like kind of going back and forth where it seems like you guys are arguing. Okay, anyways, that was happening between me and one of my group mates, and I guess she noticed because after class, she came up to me and asked me, "Oh, like, do you have beef with that person?" And I was like, "No, I'm not trying to be mean or anything. I don't want to get on people's bad sides or whatever." And then she said, "Oh, if you have beef with someone, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. It just means that you're not willing to take crap from anyone." And I was like, "Girl, you literally changed my entire life." And mind you, she's like a mom of three girls. So we know those three girls are being raised correctly. But just by that statement, I feel like it kind of changed my perspective on a lot of things where it's like, wow, I don't necessarily need to hold things in for the sake of, oh, I just don't want anybody to be mad at me. If you're mad at me because I'm voicing something that I didn't like whether you called me a name or something, or you said something that just didn't sit well with me, if you get mad about that, that's kind of a you problem. But anyway, kind of sidetracked there. Back to the height thing. Height shaming is a real and very much serious thing. It can go anywhere from calling someone Big Bird or Doofus to making remarks like it must be difficult to find a partner who's comfortable with your height. And the little things do add up over time to the point where it actually starts to hurt. And I understand that it can be difficult to work up the courage to stand up to someone, especially if it's considered a superior or a higher up, because it could be like a boss or like a manager, coworker, whoever, or even someone that you're close with, like a family or a friend, because you feel somewhere deep inside that you may hurt their feelings for saying it. You may come across as mean or disrespectful, and you may not want to come across as that way. But it's okay. You are allowed to say no to people. You are allowed to speak your mind. But no, seriously, because apparently it's a thing for tall women or tall people to be too nice to make up for their height. Like being overly nice somehow cancels out the negative traits that are associated with being tall. And honestly, that's bonkers to me. Like, you don't need to be a doormat for people to like you. Be yourself, be assertive, and let people know that you are not someone to be messed with. So if someone says something or does something that just doesn't sit right with you, I'm gonna need you to let them know sooner rather than later so they can correct the issue, especially if it has to do with your height and your body and something that's like not necessarily easily changeable. It's one thing to give constructive criticism, but to start talking about people's bodies, which is something that's not easily changeable, especially something like height, like they're gonna have to switch up because that is not acceptable. Because you know what? I like being tall. Being tall is cool. And if you disagree, goodbye. Anyways, I'm gonna end the episode here. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate you. As always, feel free to hit me up on my socials at A Tall Girls Podcast if you need any advice, any more in-depth advice on how to stand up for yourself and to let people know, while being respectful, how to let people know that this is behavior and these are words and this and that and the other that you just will not tolerate. Let's do it. We can write out a whole speech if you need me to. Just let me know. Anyways, I hope that you'll have a good rest of your day, week, month, year, life, whatever it is for you. And I'll catch you in the next one. Good night and goodbye.